So where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Most interviewers are just not trying to throw you a curve when they ask you those questions that don't seem to be related. They just want to know if you are confident, if you're capable, and if there's a good chemistry. Here we're trying to help you with some interviewing techniques. We've got some of the most common techniques or questions that will help you in an interview. You should practice answering these questions, and it will be obvious that you are well prepared for the interview. The first question may be, tell me about yourself. Well, one of the best ways to tell the interview about yourself is to talk about things that motivate you and things that not motivate you. But make sure you focus more on the things that are motivating. And also it can list things, like I said, that maybe demotivate you. And that's very important to know. And make sure you give that to them in a professional way so that you're not whining or complaining. Tell me about your last job. If they ask you about your last job, make sure you focus on your accomplishments that you had at that job and that are relevant to the job that you're focusing on or seeking. Talk about your leadership skills, your teamwork skills, and how you demonstrated those things in that job. But focus on the positive and how you can bring that to the new company. What are your qualifications? That is a common question asked in many interviews. Or tell me about your qualifications. Many interviewers kind of hear the same thing over and over again. I'm a team player. I'm a hard worker. I have a lot of enthusiasm. Those are kind of meaningless to the interviewer. What you want to do is make sure you put your qualifications into context from your last job, or from your previous school experience. Rather than saying I'm a team player, say in my last job, here's an example of when I really practiced being a good team player and how I got the team to work together effectively. Where would you like to be in 5 years? Well, this is another question that's my least favorite question, because some people think, oh, I want to be aggressive and say, I want to be in your chair in 5 years, but that doesn't really tell me anything. I would rather people say, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do know that in 5 years, I want to be at a company that will help me get my accomplishment and challenges me, and I feel rewarded. What is your ideal position? Another common interview question is, tell me about your ideal position. Truthfully, this is not a bad question because it gives you an indication to be creative, and it talks about your present job and your future. So think about this before going into the interview. Identify what your ideal job would look like and talk about it with passion and energy. And use that as an opportunity to really express your energy and your commitment to wanting to work for that organization and to grow into that position. Tell me about a problem you had to solve. What did you do? I use the word STARS, S and T. What is the situation and the task? What was the problem that you had to encounter? So you want to make sure you set that up. Then the A is the action. What did you do? And the R is pretty straightforward. Is what were the results of your actions? What did you do that would have not happened had you not been there? What is your greatest weakness? If you are in an interview, and more likely they will ask you what are some weaknesses, remember we talked about the demotivators in the very beginning. Rather than weaknesses, just say the things that demotivate me, and then kind of get off of that weakness piece to a very honest answer that has high value. If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? I was asked that question one time. They said, estimate the square miles of Mexico. And I was like, I don't know. Let me think about that. I took about 30 seconds and planned my answer. And when I opened my mouth, I said, here's how I see it. Mexico, as I remember, at its widest point, once was from California to Texas. If you flip Mexico on its side, it would be like California to Maine. So if you figure that California, Texas is about 1,500 square miles, and the length of U.S. is about 3,000 miles, you can go ahead and multiply that. I did. I multiplied that out, and I guessed it would, and divided by 2. And so I know that's a silly question, but that's how it went. So sometimes you're going to get asked silly questions. The truth is, they're not asking you for you to get that exact answer. They just wanted to see how I thought, and they wanted to see if I came up with an answer and how I approached the answer. Why should I hire you? If they ask, why should I hire you, you've got to say what it means to the company to hire you. They don't want to hear about you. They want to hear about what you can do for that company. And that's what it should be. What are your salary expectations? That's a very difficult thing to answer to in the interview process. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to overestimate what the salary requirements are. But again, if you've done your research and you understand what the market value is, what the salary is, the ranges for that particular position, just respond at the midpoint. And then let the individual know that you are open to negotiation for a salary. And then once they decide whether or not to hire you, then you can negotiate it. So those are tips that I think that would be beneficial to you. And you can't always be 100% prepared, but the more prepared you are when you go in on the interview, the higher the chances they're going to hire you